Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio.
And welcome to another Activist Around the World. And for today's Activist, we are talking about bears. Kind of. I mean, actually, we're talking about ecologist and scientist Dr. Rae Wynn-Grant, who specializes in large carnivores like black bears. And she does mention it, even though we're really not talking about black bears. I'm sorry, y'all. She does talk about what she does and how she does specialize in the large animals like black bears. So as we give you this information afterwards, you should go check out her content. I have a feeling a lot of you already do, but just in case, to find out more about these black bears. But of course, like many of our other features, Dr. Wynn-Grant is so much more than just an ecologist and scientist and all the above, whatever. She has many titles. But before we get into that, Dr. Wynn-Grant attended Emory University, which is here in our fair city. And she got a BS in environmental studies and went on to get her master's of the same at the Yale School of Environment and her PhD in ecology and evolution from Columbia University. And here's a little bit from her website. Rae is passionate about science communication and is also the creator and host of award-winning podcast Going Wild with Dr. Rae Wynn-Grant, produced by PBS Nature. Her current field system encompasses the central coast of California, where she is studying the unique ecology of carnivores in coastal zones, as well as the role of protected areas in connectivity of high-quality habitat for large carnivores. Her previous research questions surrounded the ecological drivers of human-carnivore conflict with grizzly bears in the northern Great Plains, black bears in the western Great Basin, African lions in rural Kenya and Tanzania, as well as grizzly bears in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. A native Californian, Dr. Wynn-Grant attributes her interest in wildlife and conservation to the television shows she watched as a child, including the iconic original series Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. So there you go. She likes big animals. It's got to be fascinating, too, to have that intersection between human and grizzly bears, because we already know the stories. Well, a few of those stories, right?
Yeah.
But then we also know most of the time humans are at fault.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on. She has stuck to her dreams of working in this field. So in an interview with OprahDaily.com, she talked about her interest in ecology. She says, "As a kid, I had a very urban family, and we did not spend time outdoors or in nature. All of my access to wild places was through television. And in my little kid mind, I thought, well, I don't know anyone who hangs out with wild animals and goes into the wilderness except these nature show hosts. I wanted to go to the places they went. And when it came time for college, I said, what do I major in to be a nature show host? What I quickly realized was that by being an ecologist, I would be doing all the show host stuff, just without the cameras." So she has talked about her dreams of being a host of a wildlife show. In a news article for Emory.edu, Dr. Wynn-Grant is featured for her work, and there she talks about how she wanted to be a host. So, quote, "Wynn-Grant soon found herself infatuated with animal and nature shows, the ones hosted by Steve Irwin, David Attenborough, and Marlon Perkins. These hosts showed me a completely different part of the world I had never seen," she recalls, "and I immediately fell in love with all the fauna and flora across far-flung locales on the globe. One night at the dinner table, when she was around 7 years old, she announced that when she grew up, she was going to host a nature show of her own. I was going to live in the jungle and tell people about the animals," Wynn-Grant writes in her recent published memoir, Wildlife: Finding My Purpose in an Untamed World. Yes, she has a book, y'all. And when she started college, she still had that dream. Here's another quote from that Emory article. "At the urging of a student mentor who jotted down the simple yet momentous prompt, Raise Life, for her at the top of a yellow legal pad, Wynn-Grant followed up by listing her singular goal, host a nature show. She then created a rough timeline that included classes she needed to take. Environmental sciences seemed to be the best major, as well as the first job she thought she'd have after graduating from Emory and any other degrees she needed along the way. And her years of hard work and planning has paid off. In 2023, Dr. Wynn-Grant became the first Black woman to co-host a wildlife conservation series on television. As the co-host of Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, Protecting the Wild, She talked about how she had grown up watching this program and is now a part of it, and also works on educating others about wildlife. So I love that complete circle. And she also talked about how immediately after college from Emory, she did work with the WWF, the World Wildlife Fund, but she didn't love the position she had, so she went on to get like her PhD and such. But she's not just doing network TV. She also hosts an award-winning podcast, as we talked about earlier, titled Going Wild with Dr. Rae Wynn-Grant. And here's a bit of information from her site, raewyngrant.com. On the new season of Going Wild, host and acclaimed wildlife ecologist Dr. Rae Wynn-Grant goes beyond animal stories to take listeners on a journey through the entire ecological web, from tiny planets to apex predators. In this expedition, Going Wild poses the question, how can humans look at our relationship to nature differently? Each episode, Dr. Rae Wynn-Grant speaks with a notable scientist, activist, or adventurer of color to see how they grapple with that question in their own lives and work. Episodes also invite listeners to reconsider long-held understandings of conservation, nature, and our relationship to it, and who's considered a scientist. We don't talk much about it, but she does go on to talk about how a social justice and conservation and wildlife ecologists, like how they go hand in hand, especially today, I think. It'd be really on point. And she specialized in that type of intersection, in having these conversations online and making people consider what needs to happen to expand for other marginalized peoples to be a part of this community, which is very important work. And through all this amazing work, she talks about the challenges she's faced in the field. In the interview with OprahDaily.com, she says, there haven't exactly been people rallying around young Black women to get into wildlife ecology and conservation. The messaging, or lack thereof, essentially said that this isn't a space for you to be involved, let alone be a leader. I remember doing a whole presentation for one network executive, and he thought I was perfect for a nature show. But in the same breath, he said, that'll never happen. I'm not a white guy with a beard. America isn't ready for it. He was a person who had the power to change all that, and instead he was like, wow, I could really see it, but it won't happen. Oh, but it did. And she did so much more, including writing a book. The book titled Wildlife, a Memoir was released in 2024. Put it on our list. And from her website, Wildlife follows Rae from her urban childhood in California and Virginia to her adventures and explorations in some of the world's most rugged and remote locales. Hers is a story about a career in the wild spanning nearly 2 decades, carving a niche for herself as one of very few Black female scientists, and the challenges she has had to overcome, expectations she had to leave behind, and the many lessons she has learned along the way. Through her personal story of resilience and adaptation, Rae argues for a more connected, more socially and ecologically conscious world. An incredible journey spanning the Great Plains of North America to the rainforests of Madagascar. Wildlife sheds light on our pivotal relationships and responsibility to the natural world and the relatives, both human and otherwise, that we share it with. And of course, with all of these accomplishments under her belt, she has many others, as well as being named one of the 100 if-then ambassadors by the American Association for Advancement of Science in 2019, being on the board of directors for the Explorers Club, and so much more. And when she was asked about advice for future generations interested in wildlife conservation, she told Mutual of Omaha.com, for young people, I always advise finding the fun in it early. I don't think it's important to get an internship or volunteer. Those can be forms of work. And once you're an adult, you'll have lots of work to do. No need to start early, but finding a fun way to engage with conservation is key. Whether it's watching your favorite show, following a social media account, spending time in nature with friends or family, all of this positions young people to be leaders in conservation without burning out early. Such good advice.
That's wonderful advice.
Wonderful. And yes, now we have several other options on podcasts and books for our list for sure, and even TV shows.
Yes, absolutely. Always love that. Well, listeners, please let us know if you have any thoughts about this, any suggestions. You can email us at hello@stuffmomnevertoldyou.com. You can find us on Blue Sky at Mom Stuff Podcast, or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff Mom Never Told You. We're also on YouTube. We have a TeePublic store, and we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff Mom Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.